What's going on, my PT peeps and my Walking Dead family? Welcome to the PT channel. I'm One Eye Bri, back to talk about The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 9, and some Easter eggs, callbacks, connections, and just some possible things that we saw in The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 9, and how they may connect to prior seasons, prior episodes, the comics. So obviously, spoiler warning for Season 9, Episode 9, prior seasons, the comics, all that stuff. Spoiler warning. Now, if you caught the tomato, we'll talk about that in a second, but at the beginning of the episode, before it started, we saw this little clip. Michonne says, "We lost friends we loved." And unless they really loved Arat, I think they're talking about Oceanside, Cindy, Beatrice, and some of the Oceanside women. But what do you make of that? Now for the tomato, we saw Negan bite into a tomato. And people are like, big whoop. Well, we saw the tomato earlier in Season 9 with Jed. He took a bite of the tomato. I'm mud. Well, there's that connection, but also in Season 8, we saw the flash forward of a future. We see Negan in the garden with tomatoes, and who's he talking to? Judith. Hi, darling. Yes, Judith. And man, that looked to be some foreshadowing because we saw Negan in the garden, and we saw Negan talking with Judith in this episode. Pretty cool stuff how it came around. I like the dynamic with Judith and Negan, the father-daughter dynamic. I wonder if Negan's gonna help raise Judith, or at least save Judith at some point this season and beyond. And we all saw the picture here with Dad, Mom, RJ, Judith, and Carl. Nice little family photo, right? But if you also caught a little thing in this scene when Negan goes and grabs the compass from Judith's room, you might have seen something. And I'm not saying it's the exact same cross, but it's a cross made out of sticks with some twine around the middle. We saw something just like that before in a prior season, Season 8, and it was at Carl's grave. But since then, that's been gone. They just have things in the grass, and there it is right there from Season 8 when they buried Carl. I'm not saying it's the same cross, but it could be a similar callback to Carl's grave and Judith's connection with Carl for sure. I would assume Judith remembers Carl as that's her brother, and she can't forget him, right? The JG is Judith Grimes on the back of the compass, and we saw the compass twice, right there and also on Henry's t-shirt. Pretty interesting that both characters seem to have lost their way and they're not sure where to go. Marco was seen twice in this episode, and I think we're going to see him next episode in the sneak peek for Season 9, Episode 10. That just shows me that he's likely to get killed. When we start seeing more and more of a character, that doesn't bode well. Is that the final nail in the coffin? Is Marco going to get taken out? How about Enid or Alden? Because I talked about it in my review. You see Marco, Enid, and Tara hammering nails in Jesus' coffin. Is there something to that? What do you make of it? Are all three going to die? Are all three safe? I can't wait to find out. And it's just something to think about and discuss. I did love the conversation between Michonne and Daryl. And again, they're the only ones talking about Rick. So are the X scars connected with that? And especially where the X scars are located on Daryl and Michonne. I can't wait to find out. Did you see that they left the Walker mask and, well, the Whisperer mask and Lydia's knife? Wouldn't Daryl be smarter than that? Don't leave any trails, man. Breadcrumbs. That takes me back to Sasha and Daryl back in a prior season. Not sure it's a callback or not, but it made me think of that. This scene right here makes me think of Merle Dixon back in Season 3. I know it's Negan and it's a van, but just the way they shot it and the way we see it, it just takes me back to good old Merle, Season 3, Merle Dixon with the car, attracting the walkers, getting a drink for the final time. I kind of miss Merle a little bit. Do you? Also, this big moment right here was a small moment of the episode, but a big moment if you know the history of The Walking Dead. This is where the lineup took place. You can see the trees. Negan went there for some reason, maybe to think about it. And if you really think about it, this is the start of Negan. This is where we saw him for the first time. You can see the trees. You can see how far they've come. This is where we saw Negan interact with the group. He killed Abraham and Glenn. And this is the start of our introduction of Negan, but also the start of the demise of the Saviors. If Negan just left the group alone or killed everybody, Negan would still be in power and the sanctuary would still be going. But you can see how far Negan has come. And I remember the trees when people are looking around, they're like, all right, you see this angle? He has to be standing here, has to be there. That was a huge, terrible cliffhanger. We had to wait all summer to find out who Negan picked. And here's the clear symbolism of Become the man you want to be, Negan. You can do it. Go change your clothes. Get a new leather jacket. Be a new man. And be helpful for everybody, especially Judith, Michonne, and go fight the Whispers. Go do it. Leather goods? Yep. What are the odds of that Negan finds a shop that has a leather jacket that fits him perfectly? Gotta love it. Dogs? Dogs? Like Snatch? Anyone see that movie? Dogs? But what are the odds that we're going to see Daryl have a dog, 3 dogs, Negan talking about dogs with Judith? It takes me back to season 5 when we saw the stray dogs that Sasha was like, and they're eating the dogs, which is crazy, but it's a zombie apocalypse, man. These people were starving, and I guess you would have to do it, right? In a zombie apocalypse, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. Takes me back to season 5. And I did like the part here with Tara. Tara was like, "You're leaving, Michonne? Oh, man." And previously, everyone had a problem with Michonne being there, but you can kind of see the fences starting to mend, and everyone's going to work together, and people are like, all right, guys, let's work together to fight this crazy group. And when Daryl was talking to Henry, you can see the shirt of Henry with the compass on it. I talked about that in my review. But it takes me back to when Daryl was with Beth, and Beth wanted to get a drink. This was like Henry's first time drinking. This was Beth's first time drinking. Daryl was involved. And remember, Beth said to Daryl, "You're going to be the last man standing, Daryl Dixon." So we'll see if it rings true. But it's kind of interesting that you see Daryl involved with so many different storylines with Beth, Henry, Carol, and really everybody. Now, the X scars haven't been talked about yet, but I think we're getting close, guys. I think it's going to be episode 914, but I can't wait to find out. But this may be a reach, but I got to talk about it a little bit here because it's something I saw. And I think we're seeing more and more X's. And in the episode, if you look closely at the windows of the sanctuary, it's CGI, it's not a real building. But if you look closely right there, you can see an X kind of form with the steel bars in the windows. You can see like an X start and then it goes all the way down and kind of by the windows with the supports. And if you remember in season 9, episode 1, there was an X with the scarecrow zombie. You know, it could have been a cross, but they decided to go as an X. So maybe there. Also at Hilltop, you see the X's on the barn doors, and people are like, they put those there all the time. Well, they could have made V's, or they could have made triangles, or they could have made this, or they could have made that, but they're clearly X's. Also on the bridge, we saw X's on the bridge. They're supports, and I'm sure they're there for real in real life. It's an old bridge, but they're X's nonetheless, and they're on a bridge, and they could have been in the woods. They could have done anything, but they're X's on a bridge. I'm not sure if it's connected. And also the last one here, and clearly there's supports for the steel beams. You see X's between the supports of the sanctuary. So it's kind of funny. More and more we're seeing X's. And I know it's a reach, but I just had to talk about it. Also, the connection with Magna and Enid, well, their dialogue with relationships, some people may have missed that, especially non-comic readers. Enid is with Alden, that's obvious, but Magna is with Yumiko. They're clearly on the horse together, and if you're a comic reader, you know that Magna and Yumiko are still together to this day. So we'll see how much they get involved or how long it lasts, but that's the relationship Magna was talking about. Speaking of another relationship, I felt bad for Eugene when he was like, I was sitting there and I was worried about you. I thought about you every second of every waking minute of every hour of every day of everything. I think about you all the time, Rosita. And Rosita's like, I gotta go. You make me sick, Eugene. But Rosita is with Eugene in the comics. She ends up cheating on Eugene with Siddiq. So they kind of went around that comic storyline, but Rosita got pregnant by Siddiq in the comics and also on the show, but she didn't cheat on Eugene. She didn't cheat on Father Gabriel as she was with Siddiq before Father Gabriel. Also the scene right here with Daryl and Lydia in the Hilltop jail cell and the dialogue, and Daryl's like, do you want to die? You want to die? And then he pulls his knife out and he points it at her. Well, he already had the knife out, but he's trying to get answers from Lydia. Reminds me of season 7 when he did basically the same exact thing with Dwight in a jail cell, and Daryl has his knife pointed at Dwight just like he has at Lydia. Daryl was probably going to kill Dwight there, but luckily he didn't because he helped save him and they worked together and it was pretty important, but it's a pretty cool callback and connection. Also, the Yumiko arrows, people are like, how did they get these arrows? Well, Alpha and her Whispers were going around collecting the arrows most likely from the graveyard, and she was probably picking off walkers left and right and Whispers. So they just went around and took the arrows out and put them in trees, which is pretty clever. And she says, trail ends here. So it was one big setup that worked. She captured Alden and Luke, probably to trade them back to get Lydia. So there you go, guys. Those are some Easter eggs, callbacks, connections, possible connections, and all that stuff. So did you catch these things? Did I miss anything? Let me know your thoughts. Post your comments below. I loved season 9, episode 9. I thought it was a very good episode and a great start to the back half of season 9. And I'm excited for episode 910 to 916, as we got a lot of good stuff coming, hopefully with the Whispers, Daryl, Carol, Ezekiel, the Kingdom, Hilltop, Alexandria. Oh baby. Let me know your thoughts, post your comments below. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't already, guys. Please hit that subscribe button, become a valued member of our PT channel, Walking Dead family. And remember, guys, with hard work, dedication, belief, and sacrifice, you can truly achieve your goals. Believe in yourself. You can do it. It's about love, support, staying positive, making memories. And as always, tell them, Daryl.
Yo, we love you guys. Honestly, thank you.